I do. In fact, the other things I do may not be enabled by the Spirit of God in a particular way at all. And so he says, you have the gift from God in you. Then he adds this phrase, through the laying on of my hands. Does that mean that God gave him the gift through those laying on of the apostles' hands? It may well be. It may well have been that, in a sense, Timothy was extraordinary. He was still in the apostolic transition area, and maybe he hadn't received his gift at salvation. On the other hand, maybe he had received that gift, and it was latent until officially the hands of the apostle were laid on him, until the hands of the presbytery in his own church were laid on him, as 1 Timothy 4:14 says, until word came from God directly through a prophet, as 1 Timothy 1:18 says, and in that extraordinary event, his gift may have been given, or it may have been latent there, and it just burst into full flower at that moment. We really don't know which is the case. But the point here is to kindle it afresh. The reason he mentions the laying on of hands is to affirm that Paul knows he has the gift. Just as in mentioning in chapter 4, verse 14 of the first letter to Timothy, the presbytery, to affirm that he was part of a larger group and accountable to that group for fulfilling the commission that the laying on of hands implied. Just as in chapter 1:18 of 1 Timothy, saying the word came from God was an accountability which Timothy had to live up to, knowing that this gift came from God himself. You're obligated to God, you're obligated to your church, you're obligated to me to use that gift. That's what he's saying. And in that sense, perhaps Timothy's giftedness was extraordinary. But anyone's spiritual gift puts upon them the demand to use it. Boy, this is so basic. So basic. And if you don't do what you've been gifted to do, then you don't do what you're here to do. You might as well not be around. You're denying the very essence of your spiritual function. And yet the churches are full of people who just don't see that. They think Christianity is a spectator sport. And they've done their duty if they show up and listen, sing a few songs. Paul is saying to Timothy, look, I put my hands on you as the affirmation of your giftedness and call to the ministry. I put my hands on you and launched you as an apostolic legate, as it were, an emissary, an ambassador of Christ. And you got to do it. Now that's where your boldness starts. It starts with a recognition that you're here to do a ministry. That's where it starts. If you're going to be encouraged and enthusiastic and courageous and bold, it starts when you know that you're here to name the name of Christ, to exalt Christ, to use your gift to serve his name. And so you never are ashamed of Christ. Your very reason to be is to serve Christ, whatever your gift is. And if you're not, then you're denying your very reason to be. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, I don't even know what my gift is. And let me tell you this, I'm not sure I can define mine very well. I know what I do, that's all. So if you ask me what I do, I'll tell you what I do. And I know that my gift is a combination of things that come out in what I do in my ministry, but it can't be divorced from my ministry. So what you want to do, my dear friend, is minister. Go at it. And it doesn't matter that you've got some airtight box in which you can define your gift. All that matters is that you're ministering in the energy of the Spirit of God, seeing what he does with you when you offer your life on the line in service to him. You say, well, how do you know you're even going to get in the right ministry? I think he'll lead you by your desires. I think commensurate with your gift is your desire. Your desire. I remember when somebody said to me early in my ministry, I counseled them on I had 2 appointments in counseling, and at the end of the second appointment, this man said to me, I want to tell you something that may help you in your future ministry. I said, what's that? He said, you don't have the gift of counseling. I said, you just helped me a lot. And you want to know something I said to him? I said, I'll tell you something else I don't have, and that's the desire to counsel. I have absolutely no desire to do that, so I'm sure glad I'm not stuck with a gift that I don't want to use. But you want to know something? I want to preach. You wind me up in the morning and I preach. That's the way I function. That's me. That's the truest thing there is about me in terms of spiritual dimension. That's my gift. And so and rather than sitting around in a corner trying to figure out what my gift is, I just say, oh God, fulfill my heart's desire. And that's the thing that moves me in the right direction. Now, if you're walking with the Spirit and your life is the way it ought to be, what do you want to do? Now, some of you are saying, I want to be where you are. I want to preach. You have to find your own place. I'm not going to deny your gift. Just don't crowd me. But you need to check your desires and check your heart and find out what your impulses are and what direction the Spirit of God is prompting you, and then get busy using that gift. You see, that's where your boldness comes from. Your boldness comes from the fact that this is what God made you to do. This is what God designed you to do, and you got to be doing this. This is your reason for existence. Boy, what a tremendous thing that is to know. And to know that God has me here to do this, so I can't be ashamed to do it because I don't have any other reason to be. I'm not trying to protect myself in another area because there is no other area. If I don't do this, then I don't do anything that could be even close to this in importance. So Paul says, look, Timothy, I know it's not easy, and I know you're cooling off a little, and I know you got a lot of problems, and I know it isn't easy to anticipate persecution that could result in the end of your life. But know this, the first safeguard against being ashamed of Christ is to renew your gift. It's the discipline of ministry. That's what it is. It is the discipline of ministry. Doing what the Spirit of God called and gifted you to do. Don't let the fire go low. Never, ever, ever lose the focus that you are here to do what God designed you to do. Nothing more and nothing less. So courage rises out of a sense of giftedness. I don't have any fear because I'm equipped to do this. I'm not ashamed because this is what I'm designed to do. This is what the Spirit has enabled me to do. And just to introduce his second point, we won't go into it. He first of all says, renew your gift. And secondly, look in verse 7, he says, consider your resources. Consider the resources you have to do it. God didn't give a spirit of timidity. If you're timid, God didn't give you that. What God gives, here are his resources: power, love, and discipline. If you need discipline, he'll give it. If you need love, in which every ministry must operate, he'll give it. If you need power, he'll give it. You have the resources. So first of all, if you want to avoid being ashamed of Christ, then take a good look at your gift and renew it. And secondly, take a good look at your resources and use them.